Not that I've heard of yet. I could ask Coach when I get back.
They're trying to figure it out. We need some, a few minutes, some kind of social media stuff. Yeah. Ask Jordan what he's thinking about. What do you think of the football?
Oh, it's coming. We can be prepared for that.
They're doing their own version of this. Like those 10-minute episodes with basketball.
Yes, sir. I believe so. Notice good.
Hey, nice shirt. Nice shirt. You good, Matt?
Yeah, should be good.
All right. It's great to see everybody. Really excited. Huge game Saturday in Lawrence, Kansas. They're a really good football team sitting at 7-2. Man, I have a lot of respect for Lance and his coaching staff and what he's done. I mean, I had a number of players that played for me at Cedar Hill that, played for Mangino. I had two guys that were on that Orange Bowl team, and, in the times that they were playing extremely well, and then they went through a period, with different coaching staffs, and then Lance coming in, what he's done in his 3 years, it's really impressive. They're a really good football team, and so excited to play those guys. Our scout team players of the week were Chief Collins and Will Burns. We come out of the game really healthy. We, showed up on Sunday with our med check, and everybody that played in the game, right now are ready to go, and so as healthy as we've been in a while. Still think that we're probably a week away from Cole Spencer and Mason Tharp. For sure, Mason Tharp, I think he'll be cleared, ready to go. Our last home game. Can't thank our students enough for showing up. That was a great atmosphere, and we had a great crowd. I got to catch like the last two deals of the drone show, but that was pretty incredible. And I watched the TV copy, and they got to show some of that. But our crowd, not only just our students, but our fans were incredible. And it's fun to watch. Whenever you sit on Saturday. I had two TVs going, my phone going, and my computer going, watching games all day long, and it's really impressive, our crowd versus some of the different crowds around the nation of, just really showing up and backing their team. And so can't say enough, just how impressive our fan base is and our student body. And so thank y'all so much. With that, I'll open up with for any questions.
What is, Steve Linton's status?
Should be good to go, and we're hoping. It happened like Wednesday afternoon. His back tightened up, it was Tuesday afternoon. I forgot we played on Thursday, so I was thinking about it. It was a Wednesday practice, and that was a Tuesday practice. And so back tightened up. We tried, all the way up into game time to get it loose. He felt much better yesterday. And saw him this morning. He was getting treatment this morning, was hanging out with Blanchard. They were looking, at the tackles already of, different guys that we're going to play and different guys that are doing good things around the country. And so I feel good that he'll be able to play.
And then what is it about Kansas's offense that makes them effective this year? What do you say?
Man, they're as multiple as anybody in the country. There's never going to be a time to where they're just going to line up. They're going to shift. They're going to motion. They're going to shift into a wildcat formation with their two running backs, 4 and 20. They'll have 12 in the backfield. They're going to run some option. They're going to run the outside zone. They're going to take shots off the option. They just, they find ways to create explosive plays. I was listening to the game or watching the game against Kansas and Iowa State, and they were talking about their offensive coordinator, how he looks, throughout the nation of the explosive plays that different people were doing and how it could fit in his scheme. And, man, he's finding a really good way to do that. And then, just knowing the history of having Kenny Perry there and everything like that, it definitely helps whenever you can go into the transfer portal and get to 85 scholarships. The previous coaches, they probably never got to a full roster because of the old rules. And so Lance has been able to bring in some really good players. And then they've been able to develop the players. I mean, you look at their quarterback, he was at North Texas, and, I remember him in high school, when he's battled to where he's been a starter, and then he's, got beaten out, and then he's been a starter, and, they lose their quarterback, and they, Bean has really stepped up. He's a great athlete. He's extremely fast. There's probably two people on our team that can run with him. One is Miles Thompson, and the other one is Tyler Owens. After that, he's the fastest guy, one of the fastest guys in the conference. And so it says a lot about their coaching staff. And then they play really hard. I mean, that's what's so impressive about their defense. Defensively, man, they play extremely hard. I was able to watch, with us being in a bye week, I was able to watch OU and, that on TV and then watch the Iowa State game. And that's what jumped off the tape to me, or the TV to me, is how hard their defense plays. And so exciting. It's going to be – I know they're going to have a great crowd. That's another thing that he's been able to do. He's been able to get people to the game, and that I think that makes a difference.
Coach, as this team has overcome the injuries, the adversity that they've faced all throughout the year, you haven't had a full team that hasn't had at least a ding or a nick for the entire season. How has overcoming this adversity, getting the win versus TCU, and preparing for these last three games helped this program?
I think, number one, understanding that the ball's always going to be kicked off on game time, and you got to find guys that can go in the game and help you be competitive, and then find ways to win. But I think it also, when you're talking about program as a whole, I think it's created depth for the year. I think it's created depth for these last three games of guys that are stepping up. I thought, like, for instance, Dylan Spencer had a really good game, and my challenge to the defensive staff is how you can get him on the field. I think he played 17 or 18 snaps. How can we get 25 snaps out of him? Because, he hit the quarterback 3 times and had some really good pressure. Should have had a sack, got lost in a power rush versus instead of keeping on the edge. We had a lot of pressure. It ended up being a big play for TCU. But, he's a guy like that. We're being able to create some depth, and then getting some of those young guys played because of us being banged up. And then, I think it all goes to finishing the season strong. I think it just creates a tougher program that you can overcome some of that stuff. And it starts a lot, though, with having a healthy, Baron Morton. I mean, we all saw that. He made throws the other night that he didn't make in the West Virginia game, that he didn't make in the Houston game, he didn't make in the Baylor game, he didn't make in the K-State game, just being healthier. And, he felt, I was talking to him yesterday, and he's like, Coach, man, I feel really good. And, so we go out tomorrow, and he'll be practicing, and it makes a big difference because he brings so much energy to the offense knowing that we're going to be able to do some things with an experienced quarterback.
There's been so many complaints and concerns through this year about Big 12 officiating. If you had the ability of making one change and an improvement for Big 12 officiating, what would it be?
It's funny. We were actually just talking about that. I think that it's 2023, and I don't get to watch a lot of NFL, but when I do, it seems like there's a lot of flags. Like, I'm a Cowboy fan, so it seems like there was a lot of flags in that game yesterday. But I also know that there's fixable things, and if we're going to have replay, and you're looking at every play, then not necessarily going to replay, but fixing it in real time. For instance, we got a yard back. We challenged it and we got a yard back. That should have been, to me, in 2023 going into 2024, let's go ahead and fix that in real time, because for us, where it matters the most is Dowdy. We were talking about this because we were doing some different things. We've gone for it 82 times in the last 2 years. We're a tempo team, and we're aggressive on fourth down. And so if that's fixed in real time, we're able to tempo into that fourth down. Do we get stopped? Maybe. Do we get it? Maybe. Do they have 12 guys on the field? Maybe. What did happen was we had to call a timeout, and now you get everybody to get set for us going for it on fourth down. And so there's things like that in the game that can be fixed at the, especially at the Power 5 level, at the stadiums that we play in and the camera angles that we have, that can simply be said, hey, yeah, that was a good call. Hey, yeah, pick the flag up. Now, that's going to take a lot more than just the Big 12 fixing. That's going to have to be the NCAA coming in. And I think, right now there's a proposal to use headsets in postseason in the quarterbacks, like in the NFL. So why not have that as a proposal in bowl games, fix things in real time instead of officials having to go in there and look at this little box and, slow the game down and stuff like that. So that was one thing, but it's really not just Big 12 officiating. It's just as a whole, as the game advances and we have advances in technology, just take advantage of it to get it right. That's the end of the deal. Just get it right. Be consistent and get it right. It's a really good question. I appreciate. That's I thought whenever you said that, that's one thing that would be great. That we could fix in real time.
Coach, kind of on a different note, Jacob Rodriguez came back last week. How many snaps did he take, and did he feel good coming out of that?
He felt really good. He and Bryce are actually with the defensive staff. I walked in there a while ago, and they're watching tape with the defensive staff, and he felt really good. I think he got around somewhere between 30 and 35 snaps. Don't have the exact snap count for him, but he came out, felt great. I think the biggest thing for him as the game went on, he felt more confident, and that I think the last drive he had a really big hit, big tackle, on a pass to the running back. And so I think this week at practice you're going to see, him, even feel better and more comfortable. It's nothing with his foot to where it's pain or anything like that. It's just confidence, whenever you're out that long. So I think that was the biggest thing. And, when we met yesterday on, talking about, hey, let's play Dylan Spencer a little bit more. Hey, let's do this. We felt really good about Tyler Owens going to star. Let's do this with him. Whenever C.J. Baskerville, felt really good about him. We had a good rotation at corner. We played Mo Horn. He had more snaps than he's played for us, and he's a redshirt freshman. But one of the things is I really like the rotation at linebacker. So I think Jacob Rodriguez is definitely going to play more this week, but still keeping that rotation because those four guys are playing really well. I think they've earned right to be on the field and play at a high level.
You kind of just touched on it, but I'm just curious about, after looking at it, what your thoughts were on C.J. Baskerville at boundary safety, and seemed like he made some really good tackles, some good reads. Just what do you think he can do moving forward at that position?
Well, you said it perfect. The one thing he did was tackle well. He had the hit out of bounds. 7 catches the ball. If he doesn't make that play, I had a couple of really big tackles. Had the big hit, that the crowd, went ooh on whenever the running back. So that's what I was really impressed with. The one thing that I think he can do that we've talked about and that he understands is, being a little bit more aggressive in his alignment. It was 4th and 4. They went for it, got the first down. I think he could have been tighter, So just understanding, where he can line up at that position and where his help is. That's the biggest thing because he's so smart. I mean, he's got a high football IQ, and so, says a lot for him to change positions like that because Star is a little bit – because you're so close to the ball, there's less on you at Star. And so it says a lot about CJ. Now he's just got to understand where his help comes from and that he can be aggressive on certain calls. And so I think both of those guys, you're just going to see them play better and better the last 3 games, which helps us now and then it helps us in the future because our plan was that he was going to go back there anyway. Now we're getting 3 games, and trying to fight our way into a bowl game to get a 4th, to give him even more reps.
Coach, you talked about your defense. What do they need to do against KU to stop an offense that scores almost 35 points a game?
Yeah. We've got to limit their big plays, their explosive plays, because they're going to have them. I mean, that's if you look, and they run the ball really effective with number 4, number 20. The quarterback can run the ball. They're really effective running the football. We've got to do a good job of being right in our coverages because if you look, they have just as many explosive plays in the passing game. And a lot of it's off of play action, a lot of window dressing on their plays as far as, trying to get your eyes going in the wrong direction. And they had 2 huge plays. If you go back at the end of the game, and really good scheme plays, they had 2 huge plays, one to number 2. It was off an option look, and the safety started playing the option. Number 2 ran right by him against Iowa State, and then they ran like a little ISO pop play. Baylor used to run that all the time with Coach Briles, and to number 47 that converted a big first down in that game. And so really being disciplined in the secondary and saying, hey, we're going to allow our front and our linebackers to really try to stop the run.
Coach, you're going up against a Kansas team that's scored first in 7 of their wins. How important is it to score first in this game?
Well, the biggest, really whenever you look, and I print this out every week, and kind of compare ours to the team we're playing, and then, man, their first 3 quarters, that's where they're outscoring their opponent their first 3 quarters, and then the second and third quarter is really impressive how many points they're scoring in those 2 quarters. And so, number one, we talk about it all the time. You got to figure out what kind of game it's going to be. Is it going to be a defensive game? Is it going to be, to where you both get stops but you're scoring, or it's going to be a high-scoring game? And the thing that we've got to do, we've got to come out, and because they score so early and they're, again, scoring often, then we've got to match that. If that's what kind of game it is, then we've got to match that offensively. We've got to be very aggressive. We've got to create our big plays, which we can. And, I think that's really important because when you look at their numbers, when you look at their 4 quarters overall, but their first, second, and third quarter, it's the biggest, I think, out of all the teams we've played this year. Now when you get in multiple games, you can really look at that. I think they have the biggest difference in 3 quarters than anybody else. Because if you look, like, some teams are not very good in the first quarter, but they're really good in the second quarter, or coming out of half. Some teams are really good coming out of half. These guys in the first 3 quarters, man, it's crazy how many points they're scoring.
And additionally, they have the number 1 punt return unit in the nation right now. Is there any emphasis this week in practice with your punt defense?
I think that we've, definitely it's going to be a huge – I think you're actually going strength on strength. I think they're going to face the best punter in the country. I definitely think, and believe that with Austin McNamara. I think that team has been really good. And so I think you're sitting there and you're talking about the 3 phases. Special teams is going to play a big part in this game because you've got 2 teams that are really good in special teams. But it is, when you're talking about their punt return, that I think they're going against a real strength of ours too. And so we're going to count on Mac to do what he does. He's got probably the best hang time, or one of the best hang times. I doubt he can give you every stat that Mac has because we're really pushing him, and we believe he should win the Ray Guy. award at the end of the year. We think we have the best punter in the country. He has a chance to statistically be the best punter in the history of the Big 12. And so, we're gonna turn it over to him and let him be who he is. And I think that's going to be a big part of how we can defend what they do well.
Coach, of course, 4-5, not exactly where y'all want to be in at this time of the year. But last year, y'all did end the season on a winning streak. Of course, this year it's going to be tough with 2 top 25 road games. I guess the question is, do you let that frustration, do you put it to the side and kind of just look ahead? Or do you use it as fuel, I guess, to try to win these last few games?
I think the biggest thing, we really try to focus on ourselves and, us getting better. And being 1-0, I mean, we know what we have to do. I'm one of those people, I don't believe in a plan B. You go with plan A, and then you go with plan AA, and then you go with plan AAA, and it's just like you stick with that until it's not reality. And so it's not reality for us to win the Big 12. So what is the next step and the goal of this program is to be bowl eligible. This game does not make us bowl eligible, but it keeps us in the hunt for that. And so our guys understand that, and they know that is a big deal. And we talked about it, like me having so many guys playing in the Big 12 whenever I was a high school coach and then only coaching in the Big 12, you can easily take this and say, well, it's Kansas. The first thing, I really appreciated our team meeting yesterday because our guys, the respect that they have for the team that we're about to play, you could see it on their faces because this is not the Kansas that, everybody looks at. I mean, my point to them last year is in 2017, we went 1-11 at Baylor, and our one win was against Kansas. This is not that Kansas. What Lance has done at Kansas can be as good a story as anywhere, anytime in college football. I mean, you could go back to what Snyder did at K-State, and if Lance chooses to stay at Kansas and do what he's doing, you could write a book about that too because he's totally changed that program. He's totally changed the fan base. Beating OU 2 weeks ago, I know that was a huge victory. I mean, I'm sitting there watching it, and they're talking about that they haven't done that since 1984. I mean, I don't even know if our guys understand 1984, and stuff like that. And so it's really impressive. So I know this. Our team have a lot of respect for them, and we're focused on, having a great week of practice and going in and playing a really good football team. And our goal is to go 1-0 this week, and that'll put us at 5-5, and then what's next after that?
So, Joey, what have you and Jacob decided on potentially sitting him out one more game for a red shirt or not?
Yeah, we have our plan is, roll with what we've got and work our tails off to go beat Kansas. He's going to play this week, and if everything goes the way we want it to go, then he's going to play against UCF, and if everything goes the way we want it to go, then we look at sitting out against Texas, and just because we want to make sure that, we can protect that red shirt if that's where we're going with it. I mean, I don't want to put the kid in a bad situation that, you don't play enough games to where it's not worth giving up a full year. I mean, we're having that discussion with a couple guys, but, like Blake Burris, he played the first 3 games. He's been out with a knee injury. How aggressive can we be with his rehab? If we have setbacks in his rehab, then we try to medical him, and so that's always a constant whenever we're talking about the roster. But Jacob and I have had great discussions. We feel we're going to go give it everything we got against Kansas, and then we'll sit down every week and, and discuss where we're at.
Dingle being at 4 games right now, what's his status both in terms of a redshirt intention and what's his status physically right now too?
A lot better. You know, it's a shoulder that he injured in high school and had repaired, and you know, was kind of having issues. But once we got where he started having issues and he played his 4 games, then we're going to shut him down. We're going to redshirt him. We're going to play John Curry this week, and then we'll shut him down. That'll be his 4th game. What we're going to try to do is kind of get some of these guys like Justin Horn's been really trending in a good direction to where once we can shut John down, then Justin can be up. Marcus Ramon Edwards, you know, hopefully we can get at least 2 games out of him. And so that's kind of the idea with those guys of like, you know, kind of when Dingle went down, replacing him with John. John's 4th game will be against Kansas, so we'll replace him with Justin and kind of get some reps and some experience with those guys.
Obviously, that's completely changed the game on how you play freshmen, how you use freshmen in the last 5 years or whatever. How do you like having that? What do you feel like y'all have been able to accomplish seeing those when you see those guys for 4 games?
Yeah, I think it's huge, especially in this day and age of the transfer portal and guys being, you know, upset because maybe they think they should be playing and they're not. I think that's really big. I think gaining experience. I thought it was a great rule by the NCAA to not count postseason, so you could actually get even more than 4 games and that not cost you your red shirt. So I thought that was really good. You know, I think it does a lot of things for like a guy like John. I mean, it's going to accelerate him playing next year. You know, he knows that he can play on special teams, and now he goes and fights to try to get some reps at linebacker, and I've been really proud of him. And I mean, I'm glad they did it. You know, I know guys that I coached. I mean, what a bad rule that you could lose a year having to play just 1 game depending on what time of the year. I remember Ben Molina, who played for A&M, you know, and played a little bit in the league. They had a running back that broke his leg, and, you know, that was late in the season, and Ben, like, played 2 games and lost a full year and was playing his best football, you know, what was his senior year, what should have been his redshirt junior year. And so it's a really good rule that the NCAA came up with, and so we're trying to take advantage of it for the guys that are ready. And then the one thing that's changed even more is if you look at it like the defensive guys that we didn't redshirt, if they're freshmen coming in, you know, and especially the mid-years. I mean, if you think of all the guys that are playing right now for us, Jordan Sanford was a mid-year, B.J. Jordan was a mid-year, Chapman Lewis is a mid-year or was a mid-year, Dylan Spencer was a mid-year. I mean, if you look at the offensive line, the one guy that I would feel comfortable, wouldn't want to, but would feel comfortable is Caden Carr. If he had to go in the game, he was a mid-year freshman. And so that's the trend, too, in college football is these mid-years coming in and getting their bodies, you know, ready to play. And so we had 12 mid-years last year. We're expecting pretty close to the same this year. And so I think we'll continue to have some young guys play.
All right. Thanks, Coach.
Thank you.
Coach, it seems that Kansas does a ton of motion stuff. They tag a lot of RPOs. Just how do you get set for those guys this week?
It doesn't just seem like it. It seems like it's every play. They do a really nice job. Coach Kotelnicki, I think, is kind of revolutionized offensive football, creates a lot of stresses on defense, gets guys communicating, gets guys moving. It's hard to get your cleats in the grass and get vertically up the field when you're moving like they are, and so it's quite a challenge. Thankfully we got a little extra time to, hopefully get a little head start on them. But it's going to be a big time challenge that no one slowed them down. They're averaging 35 points a game, and one of the keys is they're able to run the ball for about 200 yards a game as well as throw it, and a lot of explosives out of their run game as well as their pass game. And if you don't get gap sound, if you don't get your eyes in the right place, they're gonna hurt you.
I was just gonna ask you about Devin Neal, the running back, and what a good job he's done so far in creating offense.
Yeah, a guy who's averaging over 6 yards a carry gets your attention. He runs extremely strongly, breaks a lot of tackles, and he can run away from people. It's a tough combination when you can do both of those things. And then you combine that with the scheme that they have, where they get him in a lot of one-on-one situations, and they're in a lot of ways running triple option football. And so in triple option football, you got to be assignment sound, and you got somebody on the dive and on the quarterback in the pitch, and he ends up in one-on-one situations on people and makes guys miss. And so as best we can, we've got to get multiple guys there. You got to get guys to beat blocks and have a high desire to get there and get off blocks to help.
Back to your squad, just what did you see from CJ Baskerville at boundary safety? Seemed like he tackled pretty well and made some correct reads.
Yeah, I thought CJ did a lot of good things against TCU last week. For a guy that hadn't played there to a week and a half get ready, I thought he did a really nice job. There are some things in his game that we got to obviously correct. It's tough. I mean, he's a very, very bright guy. Came here, learned our defense, at one position. Now we're picking him up and putting him somewhere else, 8 games into the season. I thought he and TTO, both of those guys, picked it up pretty well. But obviously they don't have that history of banked reps where you've just got that motor recall where you can just go. They had to think about some things a little bit. I anticipate we'll play a lot faster with those guys this week.
Coach, talk about the discipline that your defensive line is going to have when you have a team that can run and or pass for any explosive plays at any time.
Well, it starts up front with our inside guys. They've been really good this year about being gap sound, understanding when it is play action pass and converting. Jalen in particular has gotten some sacks out of that. This week in particular, they do a really nice job with their outside zone running scheme. We've got to do a great job with our edges, setting edges. And they're going to give you multiple personnel groupings, multiple looks, formations. They do things much more so than anybody I don't think I've ever faced that does this many things that causes you to have checks, or for most people to have checks. Or you're going to give you unbalanced formations. They're going to give you tackle overs. They're going to give you wildcat formations. They're going to give you wing sets. They're going to give you empty sets. It's just a multitude of things that, it's just not day one install for us. It's okay, hey, this is what 95% of your defense stops, but if they do this, it's the but if. All those things you got to defend. And for us to be a good run defense team, our guys up front have got to do a great job, one, of getting alignment, 2, getting their cleats stuck in the grass and getting after their blocks, because as soon as your eyes start going with all the motions and all the different adjustments you make, that's when they hit people in the mouth. And they've got a veteran offensive lineman. I think they got 4 of the 5 guys are returning starters. They've made, I think, a dramatic improvement. They do a great job developing their players, and they've got guys that believe in the system and execute it really, really well.
Your young players and how they are stepping up and making an impact as injuries have happened and been able to help you, especially in the secondary.
Well, I'll tell you, BJ's been a guy since the first game. He's had to play for us, and It's a growth for him, but I really like the progress he's made. You talk about the back end, but I look at Ben Roberts. Here's a guy that, again, from game one, he's had to step up and be the guy, and he's gotten better each week. I think Coach Bookbinder's done a really nice job with him. Jordan Sanford and Chap Lewis have been guys that have had to come in and play in meaningful downs, and you got 3 true freshmen there that have had to do that. So last week we had Dylan Spencer, another true freshman that had a lot of significant downs and had some pressures on the quarterback. We really liked our class last year. You'd like to not have to play them as much, but we're going to play the guys that are ready to play. And if we put you on the field, we expect you to make plays. And these guys have stepped up by and large.
How big of a boost was it to your defense to have Jacob Rodriguez back?
Well, it's huge. I mean, he's a guy that's played a lot of football for us. I think coming out of spring where we didn't have him, but when he came back in during training camp, he stepped up right where he was, and we're a different defense. He's seen it. He communicates very, very well. He's got the ability to play the run and pass, I think, equally as well. There was a little bit of rust on him, not having seen a lot of the schemes, and so there's some things that we've got to clean up with him, but not to be, unexpected. He played really well for a guy who hadn't played in, a couple of months, and so having him be steady in that linebacker rotation was really big for us.
Coach, can you talk a little bit about Kansas' wide receiver 1, Lawrence Arnold, who's currently averaging almost 18 yards reception?
Which receiver?
Lawrence Arnold.
Oh, Arnold? Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's a vertical threat for them. They've got a couple of really long receivers with 2 and with 0 as well. They're guys that they'll stretch the field vertically. And, again, when you start getting in the triple option stuff and your safeties have to be involved in the run game, it lays for a lot of one-on-ones. And, you turn on that explosive play tape for them, and they've got receivers behind defensive backs against just about everybody. We've got to do a great job of mixing our coverages so that, at times we're going to be in one-on-one situations, at times we're going to give our guys help. But we've got to be able to play the 50-50 balls. That's the other thing. I think they do a really nice job of using their body and going up and competing for balls.
Anyone else?
No. Disappoint me, Don.
Coach, as you start to prepare for Kansas, what have you seen from Barron in these last couple of days that give you, you're happy because of the improvements he's made since he's coming off of being injured.
Yeah, I thought just looking back at the game, first and foremost, he was very efficient. I thought he was smart with the football for the most part. And, we were able just to open it up a little bit more. We were able to take some deep shots down the field. We hit the big one to Dre for the long touchdown there. And we've been trying to get that play called for a long time this year, and we're finally able to kind of get it going. So just, again, mainly just having him back at practice, the energy he brings, and again, just a guy with more experience back there, and it's been good. So, again, I think he's going to continue to feel better and better and better as we keep going in this thing, and see how much more we can continue to open up the game plan.
And how do you feel like you need to attack this Kansas defense to put Barron in situations where it's comfortable for him?
Yeah, I think kind of what we've been really trying to do the last 5 to 6 games this year is really establish the run early and, kind of get those safeties to sink down and some of that stuff, be able to take some shots in the play action game. And some of that, clearly Taj has been really running hard all year long. And, at times it's getting tough sledding in there a little bit with some of those heavy boxes and some of those things. And when those opportunities arise, we've got to be able to hopefully be able to hit them over the top. So, but again, it's going to start with the run game and establishing that and trying to open up some big holes for Taj. We can pop some more explosive runs, and then that'll, as always, open up the run game.
We'll go to Justin and Jared.
Coach, it kind of seems that Kansas has pretty multiple fronts and kind of different looks at times. What are you seeing from their scheme and anybody personnel-wise that stands out?
Yeah, defensive front-wise, they're going to be a little bit more 4-down than anything else, but they'll mix in some 3-down stuff and even some 3-3 true 3-3 stack with some wide defensive ends on some pass rush scenarios. But I think their defensive backs have really improved. I think the Kenny Logan, I think he's one of the best safeties in the league. He's been there, I feel like, for a really long time. Dude flies all around the place, makes a lot of tackles. I think he's a leader of that defense. And then, at the cornerback position, those guys are very aggressive, and so they like to jump routes, and they get their eyes on the quarterback and really try to, I think, watch his footwork and see when those timing throws are going to come out and try to be aggressive. And then up front, they just play really, really hard. They're blue-collar type guys that are motor guys that just never give up. And so when you got guys like that play really hard, if our guys aren't straining to finish the rep too, those guys will end up being able to get some sacks and some tackles for loss.
And just with the way Xavier White's been able to run the ball in space, is there any way that you can get him the ball a little bit more or try and get him in space to, yards after catch that he's been getting lately?
Yeah, he's done a really good job, man. I think he's definitely leading our team in, yards after catch for sure, and he's a strong guy. So yeah, anytime we can, try to schematically find those areas where we hit him a few times last week to get the ball in his hands in some space and let him see if he can make one miss and goes advantageous to us. So we have some things in the plan this week for him, so it'll be good.
Hey, Coach, the use of J.J. Sparkman to help as an extra blocker with motion and even out of the backfield some last week, had you used that before this season, and where did that come from?
Yeah, last year we used them a couple times, and a lot of that's just kind of schematics. We definitely have some great tight ends that we could use, but they'll change their personnel package when you go 12 personnel versus 11. And JJ's a big physical guy, and we had him a couple times last year, especially late. One that really brings back to memories against Oklahoma. He fit in there a couple times, and then he's done a really good job, and that's kind of become his niche a little bit these last couple weeks, and something he really likes to do, and a guy that we trust. So, you'll continue to see a little bit of that type stuff with him as we go.
How effective was it, do you think, in charting it, looking at it? Do you feel like it was effective last week against TCU?
The JJ stuff? Yeah. He did a good job. We had a couple of things that we probably schematically could clean up a little bit for him. But I want to say on most of the short yardage things that we did with him, we've been able to get those first downs.
And then the tempo this year, tempo seems like a thing, like when it doesn't work, it stands out more, than when it works. How effective has it been when y'all have gone tempo this year?
Yeah, it's actually been a little bit more effective than you think, because, even for me, just looking at it, it doesn't look very effective, but we did our 8-game breakdown. We're actually a little bit more effective this year. We just haven't probably had as many of the explosive plays in the tempo that we've had. But when you're looking at, some short yardage runs where you're trying to get first downs, if it's 3rd and 1 and you get a yard, to us that's an effective play because you got what you're wanting. So it's actually been pretty good. I think the biggest thing that we have not had this year is creating the big explosive plays off the tempo that we had a year ago.
Zach, you mentioned a moment ago regarding that touchdown pass from Barron to Dre that you said y'all have been wanting to do that for a few weeks now. And I was just watching the replay highlight clip of that, and Barron threw the ball 50 yards in the air. I mean, was he in a position where he literally couldn't throw that pass the last month or so since West Virginia?
Maybe at times, but a lot of it too is, you know, in that particular formation we got in right there, we kind of knew what the defense was going to give us, and that's, so again, schematically, getting what you want for that exact route concept we ran. You know, I'm trying to think back early in the year. I know we carried that concept against Oregon, for example, and a couple weeks like that we've really tried to get some of those called, and we just haven't got that called for the right look that we're looking for. And again, it's not has to be this look, but to throw that exact route that we threw to Dre right there, we're looking for a certain defensive coverage.
And back on JJ for a moment, you know, he had the touchdown catch in the bowl game 2 years ago at the Liberty Bowl, and last year had 14 catches, 150 yards. And why has he been, you know, less of a factor receiving this year?
I mean, I think a little bit of it has to do with the emergence of a guy like Coy Aiken, you know, who's really come along, and he's doing a tremendous job. And you know, I felt like especially in this last game, you know, the ball just found him a lot. And then, you know, you look at a guy like Jordan Brown too, who didn't probably play as many snaps last year for us. It's, you know, he's been kind of in and out at times, and you know, he's also in the rotation up there with Big JB. So. Again, it just kind of is kind of week in and week out, and trying to find you know, certain personnel packages that we can use certain guys that you know, help the offense as much as we can. And I think that's probably it more than anything, is just finding certain guys that are better at certain things and using those guys in those scenarios. Just like him, you know, he's one of our best blockers, and so being able to use him and those facets of what we're trying to do has been good for us.
Anything else? All right, that'll do it today.
Thank y'all.